Thanks everyone for joining us this webinar today. Here's what we are going to go over. I'm assuming that everyone has at least a little bit of familiarity with Bluebeam. Maybe not, if you're not a user, maybe at least you know what it is. So we're just going to jump right into the demo of Bluebeam Studio, which is what lets you collaborate with project partners within Revu. After the demo, go over a few case studies, how some companies are using Studio in their environment, and then we will go over the resources that we can provide, as well as answer any questions that you might have from today's content. Okay. So one thing I want to touch on before I get into the demo is I want to discuss the two different products within Studio. That would be Studio Sessions and Studio Projects. And I wanted to make a clear distinction between them because they are two separate entities and they do two different things. You can think of Studio Projects as Studio's document management system. If you think about it kind of like a file server, Dropbox, Google Drive, things of that nature, essentially it holds your files, not limited to PDFs. You can store any files in your Studio project related to the project. And it also lets you invite other users to share and contribute to the project. It has editable permissions for users and features for revision control. So it's really a document management system that you access through Revu. Now, sessions are a real-time document markup collaboration tool. This allows multiple users to look at the same document or set of documents, add markups or comment on different elements all in real time. You can't make any changes to the content of the document, only add and edit markups. So that's just a distinction I wanted to make off the bat. And with that, we'll jump right into it. So here we have Revu, in the normal Revu interface. To access Studio Sessions, or all the Studio products really, on the left-hand side, you're going to look for this Studio button. And that'll let you log in. Right now, you see I'm signed in, and I am looking at my demo project. So on the left-hand side, you can see all of the projects that I've joined. If I've been invited to a project, but I have not joined it yet, you would see that over here in not joined. So if I go here and I access my SBS class demo, I already have this one kind of set up so that we can look at a few things. First, I'm going to take a look at the project settings. So one thing that you can do within Studio projects is you can invite different users and then assign different permissions to the different users. So for example, if you are collaborating with a firm that is maybe outside, third party, or you don't want them to look at the documents, but they don't need to edit them, they can't upload anything. You can set that all in here. You can also add groups. So if you have a number of users that are maybe from that outside firm, you can add them all as in a group and set the different permissions within that group. You can also set permissions by folders. So you can see on the left-hand side, this is my document folder tree. And then you can set the different document permissions via folders. So if you want to have a master folder with some information or some permissions for some users, you can do that. Very handy for making sure that people aren't downloading and uploading and changing things willy-nilly. Okay, so to invite users, you simply click on the invite button. And from there, you can type or paste emails. This is very, very nice. You can basically copy paste it right from Outlook or Excel or whatever you might be storing email addresses in. And then that will automatically send out the invitations to all the different people that you wanted to invite. So let's take a look at the documents in here. So you can see this one called issues has this symbol next to it. That means it's checked out. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. So you can see that the file issues.pdf was originally checked out on a different machine. Local changes will not account for changes made on that machine. So right now, this PDF is checked out by another user, probably me on another computer somewhere else. And that means that I cannot upload any changes that I make to this document back to the project until the checked out document is checked back in. Now, what that does is it lets you control the revisions of each document. So you're not going to have people downloading two separate versions, each doing their own separate changes or modifications or markups, whatever, and then having a conflicting version when they both add them back, to the project. So I'm sure maybe some of you have had experience where you're working off of a network drive. Everyone's working off the same file, and people upload and replace, and you don't know what happens to which version. This gives you a very clear-cut way of making sure that nobody takes out and changes a document that someone else is actively working on. But if you did want to do that, what you could do is if you right-click, and I can do download copy. Now, what that will do is that will download a local copy onto my machine, and I can work on that or do whatever I want to it, but it wouldn't necessarily be reflected in the project file. What you would have to do is you would have to check out the document first, then add your changes, and then check the document back in. So let's go ahead and check back in our issues.pdf. I didn't really do anything to it, so shouldn't too many changes. Okay, great. So now my issues.pdf is back in. You can see it says available for checkout. And one thing that I can do, it's really neat, is if I go here, I can get a revision history of the document. So you can see that the beginning of last month, I added this document to the project. And then over here, you can see I checked it back in. And one neat thing that you can do is over here on this left-hand side, you see this little clock icon. You can do a restore revision or open revision. So I can go back and I can download the earlier version of the document and potentially restore it or merge it with the current version if I so desired. So I'm going to go ahead and close this guy. And so you can see that when I closed it, the lock symbol disappeared, and it is ready to be checked out again. So you can also upload your own files and folders. Like I said in the beginning, you are not limited to just PDFs in your studio project. You can add all kinds of files, whatever Word documents. Obviously, you cannot open those within Revu, but you can at least add them all so that everything is in the same place. If I use this checkout review, what this would show is if there were more people in this project, you could see all of the checkouts of all the documents in a list. So you can kind of see who's working on what, which is very handy. And let's go ahead and open up issues again. Oops. And let's make a change to it. So let's add a, I cannot because it's locked. So I have to check it out first before I can make a change. And now I can add a stamp. Let's call it approved. Approved stamp. This document is approved. Great. So now I'm done. I made my change and I'm going to check it back in. This is probably taking a little bit because I am also sharing my screen, so keep that in mind. Probably be a little faster for y'all. So now my document is checked back in, and then you can see another revision history. Like I said before, we can always go back. So opening that revision brings me back to the version without the approved stamp on it. And if I wanted to restore that revision as the most latest one, I can do that as well. Cool. So pretty cool stuff. Going back to the project settings, just real quick, you can create notifications and shared links for your documents. Go here. You can. This is just who gets notified about certain changes. Just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, and that is Studio Projects. One thing you can do with Studio Projects that link it to sessions is if you have a document that you want to, have a live studio session on, you can go ahead and right click, and you can add it to a session, or you can add it to an existing session. In this case, I'm going to add it to an existing one since this one is already set up. Oh, I guess I already did. So let's just jump over to that session. You can access your sessions up here on the upper left-hand corner. Let me open up the SPS demo session. Okay, so this is my session. Now, the session is different from the project in the sense that this is a live document collaboration feature, whereas projects is more of a static upload, sync with the server, upload your file, things of that nature. Whereas a session is kind of like a little bit looser, a little bit more free flowing, working on a document kind of thing. So let's open up that same issues.pdf, right? And you can see the different markups that have been added by different users. On the bottom left-hand corner, you can see a record of all of the everything that's happened in the document, basically. And what's nice is that if you click on each thing, it will bring you to that markup or comment or whatever it is. So that's very, very useful feature to have. Like I said before we jumped into the demo, you cannot edit the content of the document in a session. You can only add markups and edit markups that were created within the session. So what I mean by that is the actual content of this PDF document, these lines, these dimensions and everything, cannot do anything with that. So I can take a snapshot and add that as a markup, right? But that's different. I cannot remove, erase anything. I cannot change the text here. I cannot resize anything that's already in the document. So the idea of sessions is to, everyone's working, marking up a document, and then at the end of whatever the session, you have a completed, marked up, finalized, at least for that particular iteration, document that you can then move forward with. So some customers we noticed have kind of use sessions like a project where they'll have a session that extends for several years, and they just dump all of their documents into, which you can do by clicking add file. And, they just got a whole, slew of documents in here that are all in the session. And you can do that. That's fine, I guess, but it's not really the intent of the session. That would be more suited for a project where you could have a repository for all of those files for people to access, and you don't need to all be in this session. So just a real quick, I'm going to go over my status. I set to sleeping at one point. That is obviously not true. I'll put that on reviewing. So you can see here on the bottom left, my status was set to reviewing, not sleeping any longer. Studio sessions have similar permissions to the studio projects that we just went over. For example, save as, print, markup, markup alerts, adding documents, and then full control, which would be basically all of the above. You have kind of granular ability to do that, as well as add different groups, same as before. And you can also set expiration dates for your sessions. I usually don't because no need to necessarily, but in some cases you might want to define when a session is going to be finished so that you can have a finished document from that. So you can restrict access by email, or you can send out invitations just with the session ID, whichever one is easiest. The limitation would be that if you limit it to just the emails, then you can invite people with the session ID. So that's all that means. So let's open up this other document. Okay. Oh, it already did. Okay. So since this is a PDF that's linked to a project, we can update the project copy directly from the session. So let's go ahead and do that. Check it back in. Okay. So this is a different document that I had checked out and added to the session. So I can go, let's go back and let's do that. Go back to my, here we go. Let's take this one and let's bring it to the session. Document already exists. Okay, let's check it out. This is what happens when you go off script. Okay, well, I think you get the idea. The reason that that's not working is because this is just added it and checked it out so many times, the session. So let's go ahead and open up issues. Now your markup list works just like it does in Revu normally, except you will be able to see people adding things in real time. Clicking on a markup will, just like regular Revu, will bring you to the markup in the document. And you can also see who the author of the markup is in the author column. So one neat thing that you can do with the session is you can send an alert. So I can see that somebody alerted me to this. So if you wanted to, let's say, let's add a markup. Let's make a cloud. And then it's updating, whatever. So I added my markup and I needed someone to make sure that someone sees it. If I were to, let's see, right click and where is it? Properties. I should be able to add a notification for somebody. Until then, okay, so I'm just gonna add the note needs updating. Yeah, don't know why that's not letting me do that. Okay, well, I'll look into that. I don't know why that is not allowing me to send that notification. But what you should be able to do is you should be able to add a alert to the markup such that I can let somebody know that to take a look at this, or hey man, this needs your attention, and look at it. So don't know why that's not being added. All right, well, I'm not going to putz around with that anymore. When you are done with a session, you could click on this leave session button, or you can click on the finish session. And what that will let you do is you will have the option to save, overwrite the existing file, save it in a folder or the session subfolder, as well as generate a report. Now, what the report does is it basically will create an overview of everything that happened within the session. Of course, you can filter it and organize it by the things you want to see. But let's go ahead and let's show you how to do that without closing the session. And to do that, we will go to this button over here. That's this button down here in the bottom left. And I can make a record summary. Let's just keep everything default for now. And here's my record of the session. Now, and when I finish the session, what it will do is when it generates the report, it will create hyperlinks to all of these different markups, provided that they still exist. And you can click on them and it will bring you to that markup in the document. So it's not doing that now because the document is still in the session. But let's say if I were to go ahead to finish. Okay. All right. And where did the session go? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's because I did it in Save As folder. So I'll go ahead and open that. Okay. And there it is. All right, so that is Studio Sessions. David Miller says alerts can be sent from the markups list. Thank you, David. Let's see. Let's do that one again real quick. So I felt sometimes it feels silly when it doesn't work the way you expect it to, and then yeah, there you go. Alert attendee. Choose, and then you can choose whoever you want to alert of the markup. Okay, so now I'm a little bit confused because now I can alert attendee from when I right click on the markup. So I'm not crazy, at least not about this. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. So I'm not sure, maybe it was something in the permissions of that particular session that didn't let me send the alert. You can see that this session is one that's been going on for quite a while. This one is, I think, has done several different demos. So you see, like, going all the way back to hundreds of different markups and whatnot. So yeah, well, glad to know that I'm not that crazy about that. So this one has a few more people in it, so you can kind of see what it looks like when there are different users. So if I wanted to see just the markups that my colleague Reed added, I can right click and do filter, and then it will only display reads markups. I don't think he added any to this document. So let's take a look at another one. Let's see. Here we go. He added this cloud over here on this one. So if I go to plan A, and I want to say, okay, read filter markups. Yeah. So then that'll just show all of the markups that read added, which would be this one. You can see that the other ones are grayed out. So it's not like they're not being shown. It's just a little bit subdued. So similarly, you can also filter on the bottom in the markup list. So just different ways to do that. Okay, and let's see if I do the report on this session. Oops, sorry. To do a package report, save it. And what this does is this creates, like a little PDF guide for the documents. Clicking through here, you have all the different documents. You can open the report directly. Yeah, see, so I'm not crazy about that either. Clicking on the markup within the summary will then bring you to that particular document and show you where that markup is. So very handy there. Let's close out of this report. And so this is just the only difference with this one is that this is a basically an organizational structure to it. And so what I did there is when I finish the session, you select the PDF document report. So let me just. And that would be the PDF package report. And the combined files report would be every file combined into one PDF. So in that case, if you had several pages of PDFs that you wanted to create one PDF out of, you could do that with the combined files. PDF package would be for maintaining the separate PDFs. And then record summary is just the summary of the records. So a little just to distinguish between these three and why you'd want to use each particular one. Again, the record summary is just the summary. PDF package report is each PDF individually as well as the record summary. And combined files report would be all of them combined into a single file. Okay. And unless there are any questions, that would be the conclusion of the demo portion. So I'm just going to jump back to my presentation, and we'll go over some case studies of Bluebeam Studio in the real world. Okay. So we already did the, Okay, so let me get my notes. Sorry, guys, got a little lost there. Canon Design, the hospital in, did the hospital in Montreal. It was a geographically diverse project that had 5,900 pages, essentially. The design review process required 3 rounds of meetings with 140 departments with a total of 1,200 meeting hours, which is a lot of meeting hours. If you've been in meetings, you know that that's a lot of hours. Their solution was to use studio sessions for design review, creating custom tool sets, 3D PDFs, and sharing BIM data in the lightweight format that Bluebeam provides. So saving 2 to 3 weeks per review versus paper drawings, they were able to complete the approval process 80% faster and saving hundreds of hours across the project lifecycle. So that's pretty cool. I know I could use a few hundred hours if I could. The approach here, comparing two projects, one using the old approach and another using the studio sessions. Hilson Morin did this for a client. They decided to take the time to essentially do extra work to see how different the results would be using the two different processes. The first one was designed using the traditional methodologies. So engineers, had everything together. They drew and sketched their own systems, and then everyone merged them together. Hilson Morin had workshops and discussions about how to coordinate these. It took a lot of hours. However, with the second project, they used Revu's studio features. They did all the work in the collaboration environment provided by Revu, nothing the old way. And what they found is just that the number of hours they had recorded during the first were significantly higher than when they were using the studio features. Looking at the production process, they would estimate that using studio was 60% more efficient than the previous processes. And we can go ahead and provide a link for those case studies if you want to know a little bit more about those. So if you frequently asked questions about Studio, how do I collaborate in Studio with teammates that don't own Revu? And the answer to that is, in a session, you do not, if you invite someone to a session, they do not need a license for Revu to join and participate in the session. So very useful way to get people involved that don't have a Bluebeam license. You can invite them to the session and share the documents. In fact, actually, some of our customers, that is what they use the sessions for. They share the session with whatever collaborators they want to use just so that they can get the documents.